Hello,
Hello.
hello.
Hey, how are you, mate?
Oh, well and good. I can hear you fine. I assume you can hear me?
Yeah, you sound good. This is
Perfect.
doesn't sound like a webcam mic at all, thankfully. It's nice.
No.
Awesome, mate. So, looking forward to today's session. So, a couple of things. Let's kind of lay out what we want to cover today. Before we get into that, I wanted to ask you real quick. You mentioned you're using the core. You've been playing for a long time. You just updated to the latest version of the core. Is that
Mhm.
something you normally do whenever there's a new version of the core, or was this just kind of like a big update because you hadn't done it in a long
I
time?
think I jumped from version 3 to 5, and I think I'd tweaked enough things in the core version 3, like changing add and steal to be the default instead of add,
Hmm.
stuff like that, that I was actually quite far away from the default setting. But no, it was quite a big change, and that's not something I often do.
I wouldn't advise you do that very much, if ever. So, I
I
talked to
weighed
some.
up that the changes were big enough in the version 5 that it was worth learning the new ones.
Cool. As long as you're making that value call. I saw someone in a Twitch chat or a Reddit thread recently people talking about the core, and they said, oh, it's really really good. And the guy's like, yeah, well, I thought it was nice, but honestly, just the relearning every single time they come out with a new one and changing all my hotkeys. It took too much fun out of playing the game. It was too much just learning new hotkeys all the time, and I was
Mhm.
just flabbergasted. My jaw was dropped. I was like, this guy has been relearning everything, where they like changed the entire setup to like very slightly optimize it, and he's like, I guess I should
Mhm.
do that. And I'm like, oh my god, muscle memory, come on. It's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
a piano player who's just like, oh, now I'm going to turn my piano on its side and learn how to play it that way. Now I'm going to
Right.
hang it upside down
It's,
from the ceiling and reach my hands over my head. And I'm like, why would you do this to yourself? Like, is there just no understanding?
yeah.
Because so much muscle memory that is required in a game like StarCraft. So I
Mhm.
wanted to double check that you weren't in that camp, so I'm very happy.
Cheers. Yeah.
So with ZvT, we'll try to focus on that. What was your win rate in ZvT? Is that much lower than the other matchups?
I don't think it is actually, but I feel that a lot of the wins I get, I don't really deserve. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I've just sort of, they've left me alone to do my thing, and then I've got to the late game, and my late game play is much better than most people in my league, I think. So
You're
then I
comfortable
can go.
there. Yeah.
Whereas if they do any sort of sharp timing, generally I see them come out. You know, I might have a Ling spot in the front if I'm really being a good boy. I'll see them leave, go, oh my god, I had no inkling. Be supply blocked, have 4 Lings, and then I just lose.
Hmm. Quite a
But
step. Yeah.
I think the main reason I want to focus on Terran is I don't really have a build order and game plan against Terran at the moment.
Yeah, it felt like your write-ups were still pretty simple for the other races, but the ZVT one was the simplest, where it was literally like,
Yeah, so just
it's a beginner opening. It's like, hey, get your third hatch down, get overlord, get your pool at this time, you gas at this time, and nothing past that other than the composition. And I like that you've got clearly you've got some understanding of what you want to do in the late game. So what we do today is something you can probably go and template onto your other matchups, to some extent, in terms of, well, we want to define the build order more and define the standard scouting, to some, in some regards. And we don't need to obsess over the scouting, because scouting is just naturally entwined with our build order and our game plan, right? Without having a well-defined plan, it's kind of hard to have very exact scouting and responses, but as we work on one, the other's going to start to become more and more effective. So, did you have any ZVT replays we could kind of zoom through quickly to take a look-see?
yeah, I've found one that I think represents the way I play quite well. Um,
So,
Annoyingly, I haven't really faced any bio recently. I've been
okay.
facing
I've
loads of
actually,
wonky stuff.
I have a mech player for you anyway, who's going to be able to help
Right.
us out, right? So I'm pretty sure Nightmare is going to help us out. I'm in just chat channel Pig and chat channel Piggy, by the way. So if you in game, if you just go /join space Piggy Piggy, or even just /join space Pig Pig, just beware that it might autofill. So you'll have to hit escape if it's trying to autofill there and join you into a random chat channel or something.
100% lost. You'll have to run me through that again. Join.
So just /join space Pig. try that. Give it a go. See how it works.
Ah, there you go. That's better.
All right.
Right, and then I've put. Should I invite you to a party? Is that the plan?
Yes. Yeah. Shoot me an invite and watch with others, and then we can look through and come up with a few rules for it. Which I imagine will just be making sure we define the queens quite a bit. So promote to lobby host there. So right click.
My bad.
My log out micro is well practiced. I will log back in real quickly. Yeah, no worries.
Yeah, as you can tell, I have not done this before. Watch with others.
No worries.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you were still in the lobby, you could have just invited me again, because it's basically a lobby, kind of the same as hosting a custom game. But there we go. Just shoot me an invite again once you're in there, and
Gotcha. Okay, and promote to lobby host.
That's it. Beautiful, beautiful. All right. So yeah,
game. I think I win it, but it felt very close, and there's a lot of crazy things going on. I think I felt that this one represents like how I best play at the moment.
Cool.
Instead of me just getting horribly supply blocked and dying.
Yeah, absolutely. Are there specific things which you tend to struggle against off the top of your head? I see a battlecruiser and I lose my shit or anything like that. Or,
it's generally in bio. It's the push on the 4th base, which I know brings down everybody. Basically, that's the real deciding factor of the game, right? Generally, I would just be woefully unprepared for a sharp bio timing. And again, against mech, if they come at me earlier than I'm expecting, is what kills me. Hellbat pushes as well. Often it's just a big surprise. Battlecruiser, I tend to go very queen heavy, so battlecruiser generally okay, but
yeah,
often if I've scouted it, obviously it's 100 times easier. So if I'm unprepared, it can be quite painful. So I think this is a battlecruiser. Yeah, this is a battlecruiser game.
Cool. Yeah, we've just got to tighten things up. So a couple of general rules here to help you improve your ZvT. First things first, roaches or banes, never both. They do the exact same job, so you end up doubling up on the same thing. Likewise, to a certain extent, lots of queens and lings, or roaches or banes. It's one or the other as well, because they all kind of cover the same thing. So if you're building 11 queens by default, there's no need for any banelings or roaches in the early game. Because even hellbats you would defend with your queen count. So you're basically going 3 things all to cover against ground pressure. And basically, from what I can see, if your other games look anything like this, you're never going to be ahead. You're almost always going to put yourself behind versus every Terran player you ever play. So this is very powerful. This tells us one thing. We just pick one of those defensive units. I'm a big fan of the queens because they shut down everything, air units as well. They are, most people struggle against hellbats because number 1, they micro them badly. Number 2, they build the queens too late. So if you start dying to hellbats, you just, number 1, don't clump them all up, learn how to micro them a little. It's not hard micro, it's just something you need to practice once or twice and know the format, spread them out, individually, drop your transfuses. And don't, run them all in. And in terms of getting the queens out earlier, it's just, pay attention to your build order. You might have just had a fluke of a game where your queens were just building really late for some reason. So what do you think of that? Focusing on the queens as kind of the defensive unit and then only dropping...
Yeah, I love that. I'm a mad fan of queens.
So Bane Nest or Roachhorn as standard. Since you're going Hydraling Bane, I would imagine we probably want to go just for Bane Nest as standard, but what do you prefer? Like, this is if we need it.
Well, I'm asking you, is Hydraling Bane... I learned this a while ago. Is this still a viable way to be playing this?
Yeah, it's a one-size-fits-all solution. Hydraling Bane's kind of great. I personally... if your opponent builds a lot of Hellions, like, any mech style, you really should be making roaches. You can get away without it, but especially if they're building a ton of Hellions and they're like really multiple factory blue flames running around and you know, getting roaches out is going to make your life a lot easier. But against bio, you never need to. You never need to build roaches. So yeah.
I should be plonking down either a roach warren or a baneling nest, depending on whether I see it's bio or mech.
No, we're going to have one as default. So the roach warren can be added if we're in a very, very specific scenario where somebody is building 1,000 Hellions. That is not something that's even in the front of your mind. It's something where what's going to happen is you're going to stick to your Bane Nest as standard, and one game you'll die because you didn't build any roaches, and you kept losing tons of Lings and Banes and drones to Hellions, and then you'll look at the replay and you'll go, this guy did go 3 factories, no starport, blue flame immediately, and built 100 Hellions. Okay, this is the scenario I should have responded to, but we don't want to change the default game plan or anything like that. So we want to make sure we keep it like real minimal responses and more about let's get that standard one size fits all. So for you, I'm going to put it in bold. Lots of queens and lings is what your initial defense is going to be. And Banes is then going to be what you come to afterwards. And we don't want to rush that, the Bane Nest. We want to try to focus on just queens and lings. What's the other marker? 5 minutes 30 is a benchmark where we should have 3 mineral ions fully saturated. And that's a really nice one. Now, depending on how aggro your opponent is, it's very hard to do. And you won't even see pro gamers always hitting it, depending on, you know, like I said, how aggressive. They usually will. They almost always will. But let's take a look at your game, 5:30.
Yeah, does that mean with 6 gases all going?
No, just minerals. Just minerals. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the gases will be coming down a bit later. But even if you're doing a quicker second and third gas, we'll figure that out in a moment. This is all very general rules, no matter what build order you're doing. As long as you're doing any kind of standard 3-base style, that's really big. So you can see here, I mean, we're only just getting up to 9 workers at like 6:10. Whereas we want 16 40 seconds earlier, 35 seconds earlier. So that's very powerful. This here is our entire advantage and is the fundamental core of all Zerg versus Terran, especially versus Bio, because Ling Bane is so mineral focused, Queens are mineral focused. We take the Banelings out of this equation. We take the Roach Warren, the Bane Nest as well. Maybe we could have delayed our spores or something. Getting drones on that third base is absolutely powerful. A lot of players have a trauma from Hellions running in there and burning those drones. It's actually better to toe that line of risk. Now, if their Hellions are running in and they're losing them and stuff, even if they're getting some drones, it's good. It takes the pressure off your back, allows you to hold down that drone key freely, spread creep freely, and really get in control. So getting drones up on that third, massive win for us. And that's really, if we can saturate that really quickly, and then kind of progress, you will find that you just spend your money way better. So I think these initial rules are the biggest things. Let's actually come up with some build, I guess, guidelines and markers now, so we can define it a little bit better. So you're building...
This is exactly the sort of thing I'm looking for, by the way. This is perfect.
Fantastic. So when do you start building extra queens? Okay, so first of all, you've gone overlord speed this game.
Yes.
Is that something you're very attached to?
Like I said, I'm just trying to figure it out for myself. I don't really. I've been doing it because there's just so many different things that Terrans can throw at you, and they can use a Viking or whatever to push your overlord out so easily. But obviously, I'd much rather have economy and know how to tell what's coming at me without having to do that. At the moment, I have no other way. I want to be safe. I want to get to long game.
Yeah,
I'll invest in overlord speed.
So there's this cool thing. Most of the time you can see what's happening with a slow overlord. But what's even cooler, like here we actually throw a bunch of overlords away and this just puts us behind. And we've already built some overlords and that puts us behind as well. So what's really cool is you don't need to know if a BC is coming because, well, they've done a Hellion opening. So you should have a Spore Crawler finished in each base by the time a BC shows up. Because that's way slower than a Banshee would hit or anything like that anyway.
Okay.
And if by default you're building 9 queens, say, you're already good against a BC, Banshee, Lib, etc., etc. So what we can work on here is the one-size-fits-all response, where you actually don't really need to look at what he's doing at all. Yeah, there are some things we should know, and we'll get better at that over time. But I almost want to think of that as the second layer. So in terms of your scouting, I guess I'll put that here. Little scouting headline in the document. So that's going to be kind of the second layer after you get good at the base build, because your base build will stop 90% of things, or 95% or something like that. Maybe even more, depending on how well you execute. So for now, I think what we can do for scouting, probably we could just do an overlord on the high ground. Overlord on high ground above natural is one option. Another one is we just leave the overlord. And this is one I do actually really like. After the overlord at the start kind of sees their naturals there, you go put it up about here. And then you just send it through about 320 or so. So it gets through about 345, just before, around 4 minutes. And then you can come through at this point, and so it starts going in. You go in, you're like, yep, there's Hellions. Yeah, there's, you know, looks like probably a Liberator. Could be a Viking, could be a Medevac. Standard stuff.
So I guess that's assuming that he really should be knocking your overlord off of that little high ground that it's currently sat on, nice and safe. Because ideally, it would be nice to have that guy there all game, right? But the Terran probably shouldn't let me do that.
Yeah, well, we don't want to send 2 over because the Viking just starts getting kills. You can if you want. If Viking's not common in the meta, you can have one on the pillar and have one over here.
Yeah.
You can't really sacrifice from the natural pillar. It's too far away to get into the main. Whereas sacrificing the left. So normally we just opt for one of these, depending on what we prefer. Do we just... Because we can absolutely just leave an overlord on the high ground on the pillar. And if you want, as you get better, you just try to send Zerglings in. That's actually what I do at the moment. I don't ever scout in ZvT at the moment. I don't 100% feel the need to. Depends. As people get better at trickier builds, sometimes I think about it. But what do you prefer, the high ground pillar or the overlord sack?
I'm kind of used to the pillar and just keeping an eye on that to see when Terran moves out. So obviously, I want to change as little as possible.
Let's do it.
It's a simple choice, so yeah.
Yeah, let's do that. So let's not worry about scouting too much. Let's just worry about your build then. Okay, so when do you start building queens? Let's talk about that. That's the first thing that needs to make sure we're defined. So, you know, you do this very quick third hatch, which a lot of people mess this build up, actually. So we'll keep an eye on it. Oh, it's not crazy fast. It's just you go it just before Ling speed. Okay, so and then you go, okay, so it's hatch, overlord, Ling speed, and then you go back to droning and whatnot, and you should be pulling off gas as well, I imagine. You're just distracted by the Reaper, I think.
Yeah, I should pull off around 50, 60. Keep 2 in so that I can get the overlord speed.
Okay. Losing 2 drones is pretty rough there. Should be losing 2 drones. Yeah. But you were just focused on putting your tumor down as quickly as possible. Okay. So you go straight to 4 queens. Interesting. Okay, fair enough. The 4th queen's a little delayed, which is good. Because it's more important here to focus on non-stop droning than anything else. Now, yeah. So if we immediately pull off gas, because we're going to scratch overlord speed. So pull off gas 100% after Ling speed. No OV speed will be our first adjustment. And then basically the rule is we need to make sure once we hit 2 base saturation about 345, no later than that, we want to hit non-stop queen production up to 9 queens. And that's going to be as standard. Now, I guess that's a good thing you can check. In this game, it sees like your opening looked pretty tight. You know, you droned your natural quickly. So I don't think you need any work there. And you did start building your queens pretty consistently from around that timing. So that all looks fine. I don't think we need to change anything there. But what's the important thing? So remember, there's no banelingness. Obviously, you'd have more money for drones, overlords. Well, actually, you know what's more important in the scouting category? Let's go back to that for a sec. Our overlord spread outside our base is very important. So overlord 2... 3 and 4 out front natural and so on. So you don't have vision. So if Hellions are basically this shadowy, dark, Bernie cars come out of nowhere and raid your village and steal your women and burn down your houses. So
yeah, that's exactly right, yeah.
First one there, second one there, third one there. And you just, overlords have massive vision. So then you're seeing those Hellions way ahead. And even if a Viking comes, you can just pull those back like half a screen or just a little bit. And often the Viking comes in, gets an overlord nice and weak. You run over, transfuse it, kill the Viking, and you go, sweet. So I guess 5 and 6 would probably go like here and here on the edges to see Liberators coming in and stuff like that. Obviously, BC might kill them, but that's not the end of the world. But that's just one of the big things there. Use that same pattern against Protoss so that you see Adepts coming in, and same against Zerg, so you can see Ling Bane come in and you're not blindsided by it. Having that as a one-size-fits-all for every matchup, massive. Okay. So 5th and 6th Overlord, and I'm writing this in your document, so if any of that doesn't make sense, just ask. Do you have a second monitor?
I have a whole second computer, yeah. Oh yeah, so you are. I was jotting things in a notebook. Dear me, granddad.
Yeah. So there's always going to be, especially the first coaching session I ever do with anyone, there's going to be more information than you can possibly digest and work on. Your talent and skill and what you want to focus on is you want to put your blinders on, focus on 1 or 2 things at a time for a few days. Just keep going back to the notes and, methodically working it in little bit by little bit. So that's the Overlord scouting. So yeah, what we need to define now, and this is where your creative freedom comes in a bit. So you're droning a bit harder, you're building queens nonstop. First rule, before we even think about evos, gases, when should we build extra Zerglings? So as a general rule, the queens obviously can be out front. Having those overlords to see which way the Hellions are coming from makes it a bit easier to get out there and kind of anticipate them. I see you do have a control group for those creep queens. So you can kind of move them towards the Hellion. But we do need a little bit of a net of Zerglings. So what would your rule be for how many Zerglings you build and how, at what timing or how often to stop the Hellions running past the queens?
My rule is at some point I go, oh balls, I forgot to make Zerglings. And then...
How many do we make though? Say there's 4 to 6 Hellions.
About 14 Zerglings normally.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, just a body block Zerglings. But yeah. Okay. I don't really know when to make those.
Yeah, I think because you got the Overlord over the high ground, I'm going to actually leave that nice and loose for now and let you do it. Because some people sit at home with their Hellions or they don't build them consistently or whatever. So and that's one of the ones we want to actually be a bit greedy on. You don't want to be 100% safe at every single moment. If they dart in and kill some drones.
Just make things when I see the Hellions move out.
Yeah. Right? Which is, I assume, is kind of what you're already doing. Like, basically, just use whatever you're comfortable with at the moment where you're like, oh, shit, I don't have any lings. It feels like the time. Like, you'll have some sort of subconscious sense of, oh, I probably should have some stuff out now. The important thing is to not try to play too safe with that. Because just remember, if those Hellions don't dart in and you built 7 extra drones, you're just ahead, right? And what's the chance they run in right in that tiny window? So just don't be too obsessed with being like, I have to be 100% safe at every single moment. Then you're just putting yourself behind. And sometimes those Hellions are just sitting at their natural. And he's building a fast 3rd CC and 2 engineering bays. And the Terran's not missing a beat with his macro because, he's just that sort of player where he's not really very aggressive with his Hellions. And where like, oh, he's not even building Hellions nonstop and we're just playing safe for no reason. So 10 more lings, I guess, is something we want to take into account. Now, if you're doing this sort of build order with so many queens, normally I advise people to do the rule of 1 gas. Are you familiar with that build order?
Oh, that rings a bell from a long time ago, actually. Yeah, okay. You're
Timeless classic.
I've heard it before, yeah.
Essentially, you're just staying on 1 gas, so we wouldn't take the 2nd and 3rd one. Because notice you've got enough of your 1 gas anyway, or actually you did take a 2nd gas, to be fair. And then you're saturating all 3 mineral lines as quickly as possible. And remember that goal I was talking about of doing that by about 5:30 preferably. And obviously, maybe if we did a 2nd gas quickly, maybe it's, we got 12 drones on our 3rd now. We're still happy with it, that's fine. But yeah, essentially you take all 5 gases at once. And what this does is it just puts a massive onus on your mineral income to the point where you as a player have said, I'm going to get up a fast 4th, a fast macro hatch, and really explode my economy. So you can do it that way, or you can get a quicker 2nd or a quicker 2nd and 3rd gas. But this is kind of like a good rule in general, is you should almost never be going past 3 gases until your 3rd base is fully saturated on minerals. And like with any standard economy style, minerals are so important. And they're always the priority. and getting up to like, you know, a fourth base and or a macro hatch and so on is always the basis. So even if you're playing Roach Hydra and you're getting a quick second and third gas against Protoss, you'll still want to make sure that usually it'll be like, okay, I'm on 3 gas, third base hits 16 drones, take fourth, fifth, and sixth gas all at once and saturate those. So it's kind of something that's good because this is something you want to define in all your matchups as well, so that it's like nice and consistent. So that's definitely something I would probably advise. We probably want to do rule of 1 gas follow-up. So basically, I guess we should put here in the notes 3 minutes 30 put back on gas. So you do get some gas off the single gas geyser for your upgrades. But rule of 1 gas follow-up is we hit 3 base saturation, and that could be, you can be way oversaturated even. And then you would just be like, take a billion drones off into the extractors. So you build gas, build gas, build gas, build gas, and then you kind of transfer the workers onto those gases as they finish. 3 base saturation equals take gases, but what's actually usually more important than that, because your minerals are going crazy at this point, right? Because your gas is so delayed, is 4th base, macro hatch, and then take gases. And that's what I like to order it that way. Because the 4th base and the macro hatch is what's going to allow you to spend your money. And a lot of players, when they're first doing this build, will go 2 macro hatches or even 3 because they just can't spend their money. And that's something that I had for a long time. When I started doing this in Legacy of the Void, was I'd always go 2 or 3 macro hatcheries just because the economy pacing was so different from Heart of the Swarm, and it made it a bit easier for me. So that can work out nicely.
Okay, that's going to take some getting used to. But yeah, that sounds good. A specific struggle I had was knowing when to get gas in ZvT. It's really hard, yeah. So yeah, that's good.
So I think what's nice about this as well is, check this. Well, when do you go Evos, Bane Nest, Lair? After you've done that. It's very simple, very simplified. And the idea there is you're focusing more on the economy management, getting up 3 bases as quick as possible, getting a big economy, and then you're just pumping all your tech down. And it's going to be late because you're going to suck at the build. But it means we're not... A lot of people then go, oh, I need that faster. And they start rushing the Evos, the Bane Nest, the Lair. But they're not droning and taking the gases at the right time and stuff. So it forces you to get your economy in line first and then just explode into Lair, Evos, Bane Nest, and then, of course, the Hydra Den, etc. Once your Lair's finished as well. So... a lot of people, they just start floating crazy amounts of money. Because obviously this is a big Ling Bane style. And you are playing against Bio. So a lot of the time, so that's good. Who knows? Maybe you play mech only again in the next month. You can still play this style. Just got to obviously have, Ling Bane surrounds on good creep and good queen usage up front and that sort of stuff. But as the game goes on, you got so much money, the ZvT rhythm becomes very important. And this is the secret to being a good kind of mid-game ZvT player. It is literally just hitting tight macro cycles. Injecting, spending, building more units, and spreading creep. Building more units, spreading creep. And doing that in the midst of maybe they're dropping you, or you want to go and do little run-bys here and there, and not getting too tunnel-visioned on any one thing is very good. And you can always measure how good that rhythm is of you focusing on all that stuff. As you get better at this build, you'll go from floating 5,000 minerals every game down to 4,000, then 3,000, then 2,000. Sure. And you can see a very gradual progression of, oh, I'm getting better at actually spending my money on this big economy. Oh, my Hydras are hitting at 7 minutes 30 rather than 9 minutes. They're actually, because my upgrades aren't as delayed, and you can really progress. So, yeah, I think that should work out really nicely.
This sounds perfect. Yep.
All right. So should we hop out and just give it a go in a live game versus an opponent? And it's kind of deep end of the pool. Old school learning how to swim. Just chuck you in the pool. Swim. Go for it. But it can work out really well. It can work out very, very well. So worst comes to worst, you get your butt kicked. And let me see if Nightmare's here. Hey, mate. Sorry for making wait so long. Oh, he's here. Fantastic. What a legend. I think he must be watching.
Very kind indeed.
Awesome. Appreciate the helmet. So what we're going to do is we're going to try and get him to go pretty light on the pressure this game. And if he just bops you and kills you anyway, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I think he's a little bit lower on the MMR than you. So that's good, and I purposely wanted that. We'll also make a nice big map where it takes him a little bit to get over there, I guess. Yeah, we'll make Eternal Empire. Cool. So what we're going to do here is we're going to focus on the basics, and this is going to be really good practice for you as a player. I'm going to talk you through some of the things as well. Told him to not go too crazy hard.
Yeah, no proxy 3 ranks, please.
So I'm giving him just some instructions there. Obviously, we know what's coming because I accidentally typed that in the party, but that's fine. I think it's fine for you to know. He's going to be a mech player. Does go BC Hellion. He likes the BC Hellion. So that's good. I've told him not to do crazy run-bys and stuff until the BC's out. From that point, he can go ham and do whatever the hell he wants, which should be fun. So what are we focusing on? All right, let's just review a couple basics. So you're doing your normal opening, but you are going to pull off gas fully.
Yep.
From there, well, let's make sure we only send one overlord across the map to that pillar. The other ones, right from the start, as we're building. So even from the second overlord, right? So that's the first overlord you build. You build it, click it out front, your natural, where we want those spotting overlords, remember. And then next overlord that builds out front the third. Next one, out front the fourth, or, you know, on the edges. And so all I really care about this game is, can we remember to pull off gas? And then put back on at 3:30. And can we put our overlord spread out? We'll start with that. And then we'll just try to piece together the order of the build. It's not going to be tight at all past that point, and we don't care. It's more about, let's just internalize the order in our head, right? So let's just try and follow the structure a little bit and get into it. So yeah, pulling off gas at 100. We'll put back on at about 3 minutes 30, which is right around the time we saturate 2 bases. So it's kind of nice. You kind of saturate the gas again and then rally over to the third base. And things line up quite nicely. So I'll just shut up and let you do your normal opening here. Yeah, pulling off gas, getting nice overlord spread. Good luck, have fun, mate.
Thanks a lot.
All right. This is going to be cool, guys. I think this should be really helpful for Matt down here. He's got some good stuff. Big thanks, Kilkenny, for the 7 months, mate. I really appreciate the support. Says ZvT is a hard matchup. From which side, mate? From both, right? Can hear the thing coming through. Awesome. Those Zergy sounds. Dorse 53, that's very 2002 of you. Calling mecha fag style. That was very antiquated. Yeah, that's... Please don't use homophobic slurs, man. It's just old school, dude. bit antiquated. In terms of, is it worth playing Bio versus Zerg below 6k MMR? I mean, there's no artificial point where one style works and another doesn't. It's just about, do you enjoy playing Bio? And are you able to automate things? You know, you have to play it very different to the way a pro gamer is going to play it. That's the problem most players have. I look at most Bio players and it's honestly one of the worst things I've ever seen. Thank you, Nightmare. Nightmare's a very nice guy, letting him get that hatch down. So we saw the build order change there for no reason, which was a bit of an issue. You like to play fast with different angles of attack? You're struggling versus 5k plus players? Yeah, I mean, just tighten it up, that's all. There's no artificial point. It's like, as you play StarCraft, you're always just gonna, you get up in MMR a bit, you start playing people who are a little better. They shut you down a little more, so on and so forth. So we got one overlord out front, but we don't have an overlord there, right? Which is, oh, there he is. He's moving there. Very nice. All right, that's good. Yeah, it's just practice to tighten up your openings and your play doors. That's all. Just go do some analysis. you get better at it. As long as you enjoy Bio and you're not being emo every time you lose, you'll kick ass. You're doing good. Keep those drones going there. We've got lots of lava, so I'm just gonna pause for 1 sec. Just a real small thing. It's really good to go non-stop queens from here. Just a small little thing, which I forgot to mention before, and I guess I'll just kind of add a separate note section underneath in the document, and that is, check this out. Droning / lava spending should always take priority. Now, what this does is it kind of means that we delay those queens there slightly, just because you had like 9 lava, right? So it'd be better to spend the drones, get those out, get them mining, just defend with whatever queens we have, and then have the other queens coming out just as soon as we get the minerals. Now, it's a very small differentiation. The reason we want to do that is just to make sure that economy keeps rolling, like what I was talking about, where, okay, if there's Hellions in our face and one of our queen out front is in the deep orange already from really fast Reaper and Hellions are harassing it and, you know, we're under pressure, just keep building queens. Do exactly what you did here. But if we can get away with it, especially here on a big map, you know, and stuff, like our default should always be like, let's try and spend the money on the lava, keep those drones pumping out. And at this point, that would be, of course, one more drone back on gas in the main and everything else is rallied to the third, which I think you already set your rallies. You did fantastic. But yeah, let those drones start building, get our queens out front and just kind of should always keep that above everything else as standard in every build order, where it's like, as long as we have enough money to just keep the lava machine rolling, we should be really good and our economy will explode.
So I'm just holding down the drone and sneaking in.
Sorry, I turned you down so much. 1 sec. Yeah.
I'm just holding down the drone key, and when I can afford it, I build a queen. It's more the emphasis, rather
pretty
than
much
making sure the queen production is non-stop. Okay.
Yeah, and usually this is just a very slight adjustment. It means these 3 queens you're building now are about 10 seconds delayed, and the drones are about 10 seconds faster. That's it.
Yep. Sure.
All right. Sweet as.
Oh, very nice. Very professional.
Journey loves you. I think I took it off his camera, I guess. By the looks of it.
Our forces are under attack.
Lightning comes out. Nice. Alright, what do we got, guys? So he's building spores. Main and natural. Very early spores. Hasn't really got any Zerglings yet. His overlords are a little bit far out since it's a Viking, but not the end of the world. It's building some Zerglings, which is great. Alright, so we are going to just keep on getting ready now for our 4th base and our macro hatch. So send a drone over to the 4th. Get a drone ready for the macro hatch. Put both those down because we are at 3 base saturation. So Try to keep droning, but get the 4th, the macro hatch, and then all the gases. And you can start just adjusting that saturation. I like the way you've changed your rally point back on your natural. Keep droning really hard here. And just remember, you need about 30 more drones to both take all the gases, saturate them, and build the evos and so on. So even though you feel like you're saturated, your instincts are going to say, hey, don't need to build that many more drones. You do. 5 gases is 18 drones, including the extractors. 2 evos is another 2. Bane Nest is another. Hydroden's another. So essentially, if your number goes into the red on one of your bases, you got 30 drones there. It's not even a bad thing. If we haven't put guys on gas yet, we will always find room for where those drones are needed. Alright, you're looking great. Let's bring all the queens up into the main and drop an extra spore if you can. Other than that, be super chill here, and we just want to get the lair started as soon as we can, and a baneling nest as well. Remember that it's lair, evos, lair, baneling nest all together normally, and try to chunk those together to make sure we don't forget any of them. So don't get distracted by the battle cruiser. Your real superpower here is to ignore your opponent's harassment if you've got enough queens. So the A move the queens and look away, one of the most powerful Chad moves you can have as a Zerg player. Just keep that macro machine rolling. And yeah, you're doing really good, mate. Keep it up. So you're finishing off your saturation now, which is nice in the main. Now, the rule here is do not drone the 4th minerals or 4th base until you've just built a ton of units. So you're still building units non-stop. You're still going inject unit production, inject unit production. Ooh, Hellions in the natural, so I'll stop distracting you for a sec. Let's go deal with that. And just replace those drones, put them back to mining, and go back to non-stop Ling Bane production. And we're of course going to get our lair, or sorry, our Hydroden, our Bane speed. And just make sure we keep re-droning any losses anywhere. And it's okay to over-drone if they're doing this sort of style. You can go up to, you know, 75, 80 drones or something. Basically, if you were up against Bio, we wouldn't drone the 4th. But the moment you feel safe, after you hold the first Bio tank pressure or you get a big army of Ling Bane out, that's when you can drone it. In this case, he's going mech. We know he's not going to do anything, so you can drone that 4th base fully. So you can finish your saturation off here. Basically, we just want to build about 30 drones because you're on 58 now. We lost some on our natural and 3rd, and we want to fully drone our 4th. So we can take a, yeah. And just get both Hydra upgrades queued. We also want to swap into range and melee upgrades. So no armor upgrades from now on because we're up against mech. So it's all about damage output, spreading creep, and just making a gigantic Hydraling Bane army. So you've got a pretty good work account. You do need to set up to defend the run-bys. In the bottom we got some Hellions. Yeah, nice, nice, nice. You're doing good. So this is going to keep happening all game long. So it's time to make sure you split off a drop defense squad on the opposite side, which you've already done because you're a core user. Oh, I love core users. Beautiful. Yeah, so basically just make a giant Hydraling Bane army, and then we're going to go win the game with it. Hopefully before maxed, but just basically when Groove Spines finishes. So get about 20 Hydras out, maybe 25 at most, and then just the rest on just tons of Ling Bane. Keep spreading creep in the meantime. Try to get some map control. Right now we're a little blind. If we can get a few Ling spotters out, see what bases he's got. But the main thing here is we're building to that big Hydra Bane timing that we were talking about and getting ready to just go stomp him into the ground. You've defended all game, and you might be used to your older style where you're still thinking defend, defend, defend. With this style, if you do it well enough, you should be able to go overwhelm them at a certain point. I'm going to just put it on his camera. He's got to find his own rhythm here, guys. He's doing a pretty good job. Nightmare. What a shithead. He's being such a dick. Motherfucker.
I'm hearing different.
So definitely just try to deal with these BCs. Just Hydras is fine for dealing with BCs. Just try to get rid of them one more time. And you want to try and put up like 3 spores or 4 spores once they're gone from this base. Usually you can just go kill him on his side of the map as well. So if you want, you could go all in at some point here, not even bother re-droning, and then just like try to go kill him. Because usually if they're doing this sort of stuff, they don't have much behind it. So you can just grab your entire army. You've got a lot of Hydras, so just focus on pure Zergling plus making a ton of extra Banes. And if you can get about maybe an extra 30 Banelings and then go do a push, see what you can do with that army, and then we can kind of hop out and practice another early game after this one. So is this the best way to win from here? Maybe not, but when someone's being this YOLO like he's being to you, not a bad idea. More Banes, more Banes. Let's go, go, go. And yeah, look for what you can get up here. See if you can find some damage. That top base building is probably an easy target to snipe while you're waiting to attack the rich gas, where you know he's probably got a planetary on that rich gas. Just kind of caught around an angle here. Good micro by Nightmare. Oh, some big Baneling hits, man. Yeah, and if we'd actually had a slightly bigger army, we would have split that into 2 halves and come from both sides. So if we came from the right at the same time, separately there, and sandwiched him, or hit even 2 different bases, it's a good chance we win that fight about 3 times as efficiently as we did, because he did a good job of kiting about half of our army to pieces. And then the moment he was actually standing and fighting, we saw the power of Hydra Bane versus fragile as shit Cyclones. Very soft army that he had. But yeah, get in there, go for the natural maybe, not a bad idea. See if there's any defenses. Don't give him any time. Move the Hydras through the choke. Alright, split your units into the summon to the 3rd mineral line as well. And as long as you take out the workers on both mineral lines, you got this. Nice. He has 6k minerals and 1,000 gas in the bank. If we gave him another minute to get a few more planetaries up and a bunch more cyclones and so on, we would not have been able to win that game most likely. Especially if he built a few tanks. Tank production. Even just 3 to 4 tanks for safety, and you would have crushed that push. Also, some blue flame. You had no Hellions in your army. Great harass though, mate.
Oh, yes, it was indeed.
Awesome. That was a really good first run through. That was amazing. Obviously, I told him to not be too annoying. You did do something different that game where you took your 3rd after Ling speed. So there's a slight... Okay, that was a mistake. Cool. He was nice. His Reaper came over, looked at it and said, Pig said to go easy.
But I don't deserve this.
Well, you still did...
The 3rd is to not let the Reaper block it, so...
Yes. But when we're focusing on a new build order, such mistakes are absolutely natural and expected. So, you know, no shame in that one. We'll host up another game to get through the opening again very quickly here if we possibly can. I will have to go partway through. So just letting Nightmare know as well, I'll have to go in 8 minutes or so. But if you guys can play it out, it'll be great practice, right? So I think this will be awesome no matter what for you guys to play it out. Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, obviously I don't think letting him off the chain is the most helpful thing for your practice. But we can go into it with the mindset of, hey, it could be fun for him to just go super aggro and just play his normal style. What do you reckon? Should we take him off the chain? Unchain the Mech Terran?
Yeah, sure. I mean, felt felt pretty off the chain already, but yeah.
Well, I told him once the BC was out, he could go off the chain, and that's when he did. But he might be able to be a bit more annoying with the early Hellions or something like that if he wants.
Sure. Very, very kind.
Awesome. Yeah, I like the way you did it. So just what are you doing in between games? You're doing this, what are you doing at the start of the game? It's reminding yourself of the basics. Just because you did it well that game doesn't mean you're going to do it well the next. So remember, let's pull off gas at 100, third hatch before link speed. Let's send the overlords out front of the base, which you did a great job with last game. You had so much vision. What about a bit later? Okay, so you did really good. You were droning. There was a slight adjustment where, try to keep the droning up ahead of the queens. Doesn't really matter, to be honest, at the level you're at and where you're at with this build. But, just a nice, okay, that's cool. What's more important is let's remember to go fourth base and macro hatch, then all the gases. Keep that order, right? Yep. And it's very important for you to focus on this. This is not about, if you take a gas before the hatch, it changes your build. It's about your brain and how you remember it and how you learn it. I want to reinforce the exact same pathways in your brain. I want you to always do it the same way, just so that it becomes this thing you do without even really looking at it. The more organized your build is, the more you're looking at your minimap and you're spotting the Liberator flying in or something, because you're doing something you've done many times before, right? The more your brain's kind of switched on, you're going, actually, I think when I see them doing that, it actually means they're going to do the Marauder Hellbat build or something. There's more problem solving, there's more awareness, the more practiced you are in a situation. So doing it in the same order also it means you're not going to forget stuff as much. Players who don't refine the order and they do it kind of randomly, always forgetting shit. The double Evo finishes and 2 minutes later the upgrades start. That sort of thing happens all the time. So try to remember hatcheries, then all the gases, and then after that, try to do double Evo, Bane Nest, Lair all at the same time if you can, just so it's one big chunk of chucking the tech and upgrades down. Make sure we don't forget anything that way.
Yep.
Awesome, dude. You ready?
I have one more question.
Yep.
Hives.
What's that?
I've got a hive in the game.
I don't...
Should I be thinking about hive timings?
What for?
Against mech, it's Vipers.
Yeah, well, Vipers are good. I'm kind of trolling. I think Lingbane, Hydra, or Die Trying is a really good way of playing where you don't complicate things by going Hive, because you can do this against any style, and instead you can focus on spread creep better, do more run bys, split your army in half. So you've got two big halves attacking different areas like I was talking about, and that's a great way to do it. This is a practice regimen, whereas a lot of people, they execute bad in the mid game, and then they just try to go to Hive to make up for it with higher tier units, and it's a trap you can fall into. When should you go Hive? There's no real rule other than whatever feels comfortable for you, but I would advise you try to play Hydra, Lingbane, or Die Trying. And if it doesn't work for you, well, get better at finding better engagements. If you find a good enough flank or two-pronged sandwich with Hydra, Lingbane, you can beat some pretty sick armies with Hydra, Lingbane. It also just keeps you really focused on what's right in front of you. Yeah. So you can come up with your own Hive trigger for later, but for now, probably just try to stay Hydra, Lingbane and do your best to make it work.
Okay, very good.
Sweet as, man. All right, let's go. All right, get in your groove, kick some ass. I'm going to completely shut up and let you get in your rhythm. There's going to be many mistakes, and like I said, after today and after I'm gone, go back and practice this in an empty custom game. Do it in the most standard situation where you're still trying to maybe simulate in your head moving your queens around as if you're responding to Hellion pokes. But do some isolated practice to really internalize things. We're throwing you in the deep end. You're going to take it back afterwards. Do a bit of isolated practice. And then when you take it on the ladder, just keep focusing on reinforcing it, and you are going to kick some ass. So get in here. Good luck. Have fun. And kick some ass, mate.
Cheers.
All right. Good stuff. Good stuff. Thank you very much for hanging out, guys. We just had a sub from Remac. Thank you very much, fam. Appreciate that, guys. So we're going to have to finish up this coaching session in a minute. We just want to look at his opening and write a few more notes on that before I do have to go. Yeah, guys, about 12 hours till we do the... It's like 12 or 14 hours till we do the rostered stream, which I'm a little bit annoyed about because it's a bit late, actually. I think it's an hour later than I had initially thought. which means it's ruining my bedtime, funnily enough. I'm trying to go to sleep crazy early yesterday, tonight, tomorrow. Getting ready for this weekend. It's going to be grueling, man. Tatebson says 1 or 3 gases before 4th. You just on 1 gas, and then you drop your 4th base, your macro hatch, and you go 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th gas all at once. Just after starting your 4th hatch and your macro hatch. Just a classic rule of 1 gas. Some people would say, classic rule of 1 gas. Actually, you go to the hatchery just after the gases. Kind of, yeah, but lately I've noticed players who are swapping to this style really struggling with spending their money, and sometimes the macro hatch and 4th base gets forgotten, and since that really is so important, and you're doing it all around the same time anyway, it's a very slight reordering. Do you have a guide about how to beat meta adepts, says Yuri Bunikov? I did the exact same thing I've always done. If you look at any of my recent ZvP coaching sessions, I don't know if any are up on YouTube. You know, I just go roaches. I don't do this ling stuff. I don't do this speed ling stuff. I'm not a big fan. Find it really hard if they do like an adept all in or something. You know. But yeah, you just get roaches out. I mean, if the main problem people have with ZvP runs deeper than adepts, it's people have terrible fucking scouting in this matchup. Like really bad scouting in ZvP. So it's it's kind of, you know, they don't even know what tech they're going up against until like the warp prism comes out, and I'm like, well, that's too late to build a roach warren, you know. So there's a few ways. I know Lambo has a guide. He has a video showing how to defend it with the way all the pros are doing it. My way is just old school, where I just say, hey, anytime I scout ground play, which is with my overlord and 2 zerglings, well, that was good defense. My overlord and 2 zerglings always scouts, and if I know it's that, I go 3 minutes 45 lair, roach warren, 2 more gases, and then I stop at 2 base saturation, 3 gases, which is about 41 drones. I might have a couple more drones on minerals on my natural, and I just pump roaches the moment my roach warren's done, and then I go out front and I greet them. So the adepts are here. If the adepts are coming from this angle, I want to meet them out here or here. Force the shade out early. And then, you know, they rotate and I come down, I greet them here. You want to keep forcing the shade out early. So you want to be out there with creep, out there with overlord spotting them. You want to intercept them ahead of time so that the shade can't get too deep. And all my reinforcing roaches get thrown into a split control group. So I split my control groups after the first shade of roaches so that I'm covering the shade with one half of the roaches and the other half are fighting them. And I just keep building roaches for a little bit if they're still building adepts. And then once I've got, you know, my roach speed up and during it, I'll take a 4th gas and saturate that. And then I'll kind of go, okay, we're chill. Let's drone our 3rd base while establishing control over the next little bit of the game. So hopefully that helps you out. Thank you, Dero. Appreciate the 3 months. This is a good opening, guys. He's got good overlord vision. I'd probably have this overlord here a little bit more because it's not going to see the Hellions until there. Losing a few drones is not the end of the world. It's totally fine. This is actually really good. This is actually so good. Drones and overlords like a motherfucker. When they throw away their guys like that, it's really good for us. 15 lava. Go, go, go. Drones, 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 drones.
Little bit of a supply low.
That's cool. Get tumor going from the 3rd. And the cool thing here, as long as you keep droning really hard after that, spreading your creep out, we do need an overlord up on the left of our main to make sure we're not surprised by anything. But you're doing good. So it's always like, man, he got some drones, bit of a disruption. But as long as you re-drone hard afterwards and you deflect the next waves, you'll be looking good. Here comes some more. Beautiful. So he keeps microing. I would A-move that already.
Pretty handy, huh?
Just remember the secret is once you realize it's held, don't even look at it. Just A-move, keep macroing.
Okay.
And just keep, getting everything going here. We're going to go the 4th base, the macro hatch, and then into the gases. Keep getting each step going. You are kicking ass. You're looking great, mate. What fourth does he go? Oh, he goes this fourth. Holy shit. Oh yeah, some people do really like this one. I've been enjoying this one. And whilst there is an annoying position up here, I just do crazy run-bys. Because it is quite far from the hatch, so it's hard for them to actually get down there. But then they do have a tank position there as well. This base I fucking hate. I don't like these tank ledges are just too brutal. The fact you got high ground with that there is just ugh. Yeah, good job pulling the drones away. And the BC is gonna get 6, 7, 8 kills. Ooh, it almost gets a 9th. Well done by Nightmare there. And it's gonna go back to Mount Cyril. Have a little bit of a prey over there. Why not? All right, guys, we are out of time.
Thanks a lot, man.
Good luck, have fun. Kick some ass, man. Hellions incoming.
Thanks.
Awesome. All right, I had to jet there, but I think we'd already kind of done a nice little summary. I'll just shoot him a message on Discord saying, hey, mate. Anything unclear in the notes, etc., hit me up with a message. Let me know how it goes, and hit me up when ready to book in the next one. Fantastic. All right. So we've given him a big structure to improve his Zerg vs. Terran there in many ways. He's got a big set of notes in our little Google document there. And he should be improving quite a bit. Feeling really good after that session, guys. I think we were very organized.